The sign reads, Sicilian Jazz. In December 1915, Nick LaRocca was playing jazz, spelled J-A-S-S, music at Canal Street and St. Charles Avenue to promote a world championship fight. He was asked to play in Chicago. From Chicago, he went to New York and recorded music titled Jazz. LaRocca decided to change the music on future albums to Jazz, J-A-Z-Z. His first recording, Livery Stable Blues, sold over 1 million copies. His later song, Tiger Rag, is a favorite of LSU fans. Louis Prima followed LaRocca in 1934 and was instrumental in introducing swing music. The sign ends with a QR code and URL for additional information. I'm not concerned here with the historical accuracy of this commemorative placard. John Gennari's talk today provides us with all the key tools needed to unpack this embossed statement. Nor will I attempt to decode the local cultural politics of the sign's placement. For that, I direct you to the blog post of the Music and Cultural Coalition of New Orleans, a nonprofit group which provides vital background information and analysis of the sign's origins. I draw your attention then to this recent LaRocca marker, and there's another one that exists on the Jazz Walk of Fame at Algiers points. Based on my interest as a scholar of material culture and the built environment, and my most recent collaborative work with Lauro Roberto on Italian migrations and monuments, those artifacts believed to be permanent markers of irrevocable truths, but that are ultimately involved in deeply mythologized pasts, or what monument scholar Kirk Savage calls self-justifying fables. What I wish to raise briefly in relation to John's presentation is how such contemporary privileging of LaRocca with its pronounced ethnic association, Sicilian jazz, on a Louisiana state-endorsed historical marker reinforces mythologized view of LaRocca, whom John refers to as one of jazz's anti-heroes, and one that continues to inform and shape how Italian Americans and others think about and experience the country's cultural history. One cannot see this marker without taking into consideration the changes in New Orleans and throughout the country around public monuments and memorials in the last few years. Specifically, the activism led by African Americans here to remove four monuments to Confederate traitors, which embodied and advanced the myth of a lost cause in the service of white supremacists and segregationists. While this small-scale, text-driven placard to a working-class electrician and trumpeter in no way compares with the depedestalization of colossal defenders of slavery, the imprimatur of a historical marker on the public landscape exalts and by extension proselytizes LaRocca's actions, words, and expressed beliefs as embedded history. But it is the truncated vagueness of the sign's perfunctory language, its 7 declarative sentences, by which history is reconfigured into the ideological present, through the obfuscation of nuance and critical examination of the kind presented here today. The presence of such a marker removes, and by extension devalues, the prevailing condemnation of LaRocca's ludicrous and contemptible pronouncements in the name of ethnic pride. This recent iteration makes a public stand on how Italian-American identity is articulated in relationship to the city's neighbors and fellow citizens within a power dynamic of racialized history that we are all currently re-examining vigorously across the country, and as such can be seen as an abdication of shared responsibility to others. As Lauro Roberto and I have written elsewhere concerning monuments, memorials, and other commemorative spaces of Italian diasporic impulse, awareness of the historical and contemporary way Italians, broadly defined, have been positioned within various countries' racialized hierarchies of oppression are particularly relevant in our times given the rise of virulent xenophobia, increased nationalism, border restrictions, and racist violence, all emerging as part of public rhetoric, individual acts, and government policies. In the current moment in which we are experiencing the loud articulation of whiteness that historian Matthew Fry Jacobson labels Confederate, where do we find a contemporary white ethnic Italian-American response to the defense and promotion of white supremacist symbols in commemorative spaces and elsewhere? First and foremost, we find it in symposia such as this one and other university-based initiatives which seek to examine and parse the historical record and varied cultural expressions with thoroughness and rigor. But we also see it with a younger generation of Italian-American